The bartender handed me the second drink with a nod like he already knew what was happening. Maybe he did. Maybe everyone knew, except me. I stood at the edge of the dance floor, gripping 2 gin and tonics like a fool, watching my wife press her body against another man's like I didn't exist. She was laughing. That high, wild laugh she only ever used when she was trying to impress. Her hands were up, hair falling back, and her eyes were locked on him like he was gravity and she was dying to fall. And me? I just stood there, invisible. The headphones thumped in my ears. It was one of those stupid silent parties where everyone's dancing to different music. She'd insisted we come. She said, "Let's do something different. Let's feel young again." What she meant was, let me pretend you're not in the room while I flirt with a walking gym membership in dress shoes. The guy, I didn't even catch his name, had that cocky, slow-moving swagger. The kind that says, "I've ruined marriages before and slept just fine after." His hand rested just below her waist, and she let it. She let it. Right there, surrounded by her friends. Our friends. I turned toward Jamie, our mutual friend, hoping she'd notice. Say something. But she looked away when our eyes met. Fast. Guilty. So it wasn't just me. Everyone knew. And I swear, I wasn't even mad yet. Not really. I was humiliated. That kind of deep, slow humiliation that simmers behind your ribs and makes your fingertips go numb. Because no one said anything. Not one person. I stood there for 15 more seconds. Then I placed both drinks on a table. Neatly. Took off my wristband. Dropped it beside them. And walked out of the club without a single word. Down the stairs. Through the alley. Into the bitter night air. I made it halfway down the block before the text started. "Where did you go? Are you seriously doing this right now? Come back." Then the calls. Then Jamie called. Then her. But by the time the 4th call buzzed through my phone, I was already deleting her contact. She didn't notice me all night. But the moment I vanished, she panicked. And that was just the beginning. I didn't go home. I know that's what she expected. That I'd storm out, slam the door behind me, and end up sulking on the couch until she came back with a rehearsed apology and some half-hearted excuse like, "You misunderstood what you saw." But not this time. Not tonight. I walked. Past the bar. Past the streetlight. Past the urge to turn around and fix something I didn't even break. What's wild is, I wasn't planning anything. I had no grand revenge fantasy. No clever one-liner to throw in her face. I just needed air. And silence. Real silence. Not the kind that wraps around you in a party full of fake people dancing with strangers while pretending their marriages aren't on fire. That's when it happened. I was sitting on a bench near the river walk. No lights, just the flicker of the city in the distance and the occasional bike zooming by. My phone was still lighting up every 2 minutes with her name. Then Jamie's. Then a number I didn't recognize. I let it buzz. Over and over. But the last call? That one made me freeze. Because the name wasn't hers. It was Travis. I hadn't spoken to Travis in almost a year. He was my former coworker, the guy who used to crash on our couch when he was going through his divorce. Miriam never liked him around. Said he brought divorce energy into the house. But Travis had a gut instinct like no one else, and he never sugarcoated anything. When I picked up, he didn't even say hello. He just said, "She's been doing this for months, man." My throat went dry. What? I saw her. At that rooftop bar on 6th last month. Same guy. Same moves. I didn't say anything because I thought maybe you knew. Or maybe it wasn't what it looked like. But then I saw your name on her Instagram story tonight, tagged in that dumb party. And I thought, he has no clue. He paused. "I'm sorry I didn't tell you sooner." I couldn't breathe. Not because I didn't believe him, but because I did. Because everything started falling into place like a cursed puzzle I'd been staring at for years, thinking I was just missing a few pieces. Her sudden interest in going out. The late returns. The phone always face down. The way she pulled away slightly when I touched her in public, like intimacy was an act saved for someone else. I asked one question. Quietly. "Did she see you?" Travis hesitated. "I don't think so." But he did. And he looked nervous. I sat there, watching my phone screen dim to black. I swear I felt something shift in me. Not anger. Not yet. It was deeper. Quieter. Like a part of me had died a slow death, and I was just now finding the body. Miriam texted again. "This isn't what you think." I almost laughed. Because at that point, I didn't even know what I thought. But one thing was suddenly, painfully clear. Someone else knew my wife better than I did. And I was done pretending not to notice. I didn't go home that night. I went somewhere she wouldn't expect. Somewhere I hadn't been in years, Travis's place. He still lived in that cramped apartment above the motorcycle shop, the one that always smelled like coffee and WD-40. When he opened the door, he didn't ask a single question, just handed me a beer and nodded toward the couch like we were back in our 20s again, hiding from something we both should have dealt with sooner. I didn't sleep. My mind was replaying every moment from the past 6 months like a highlight reel from a horror movie I didn't realize I was starring in. Every girl's night, every unexplained Uber receipt, every time she smiled down at her phone and told me it was just a meme. I wanted to scream at myself for how blind I'd been. I thought I was a good husband. Maybe not exciting, but loyal, steady, safe. I never thought safe would become boring to someone I built a life for. By morning, I had a plan, not for revenge, not yet, but for clarity. I needed to see it with my own eyes. The truth. No more hints. No more stories from friends who felt guilty. I needed undeniable proof. So I told Travis we were going back to that same club the next weekend. And this time, I wouldn't be holding drinks at the edge of the dance floor. I'd be watching her, and I wouldn't be alone. He didn't even hesitate. I know someone who owes me a favor. She's smart, discreet, and she's the kind of woman your wife will hate. Her name was Brooke. Tall, sharp, tattooed. The kind of woman who didn't just enter a room, she cut through it. She didn't ask for a backstory. Just said, I know the type. I'll be your plus one. Let her notice me first. So that next Saturday, I returned to the very place I had quietly disappeared from just a week before. Only this time, I came back with someone who could make gravity bend in her direction. I didn't wear anything fancy, just black jeans and a dark shirt. But Brooke? She walked in like a storm, wearing heels and danger in her smile. And sure enough, within 10 minutes, I saw Miriam. Same headphones, same laugh, same guy, Parker. She had her back to me, hands already lazily around his neck. I watched her tilt her head, teasing, sipping something expensive from a plastic cup. Then Brooke leaned in and whispered, ready to be seen? I nodded. We walked past them, arm in arm, slow enough to be noticed, fast enough to leave her guessing. Miriam turned, probably by instinct, and her smile collapsed. Not faded, not softened. It collapsed, like she had just seen a ghost in the middle of her performance. Her mouth parted slightly. Her whole posture changed. She tried to adjust, to flip her hair, to act like she wasn't shaken, but her eyes stayed locked on Brooke. Not even me, her. And I knew right then I wasn't crazy. She knew what she was doing, and she had never expected me to wake up. But now I was wide awake and watching her panic in real time. We didn't stay long, maybe 20 minutes. That's all it took. I didn't need to see her dance again. I didn't need another slow-motion replay of her pretending I was invisible. This time, I wanted her to feel what it was like, to be unseen, to be powerless. And the only way to do that was with complete, ice-cold silence. So Brooke and I just drifted through the dance floor. We didn't cling to each other. We didn't make a scene. We just existed, calm, confident, effortless, exactly where Miriam thought she ruled. And with every passing minute, I felt her unraveling from across the room. Her dancing slowed. Her laugh faded. She kept glancing over, but I never looked back directly. That's what destroyed her. Not screaming, not drama, just the realization that she wasn't the one being watched anymore. We walked out like nothing happened. Brooke gave me a soft pat on the back and said, let her sit in it. Let her imagination torture her. Don't chase. Don't explain. Just vanish again. And that's exactly what I did. I didn't text. Didn't answer her frantic messages the next morning. I stayed at Travis's again. And by the time Monday rolled around, she was waiting for me in our apartment, sitting at the edge of the bed, still in the oversized t-shirt she always wore when she wanted to play innocent. You're not going to say anything? She asked, voice sharp, like she was trying to provoke something out of me. I just looked at her. No anger, no accusations, just pure, brutal indifference. Who was she pressed. You think bringing some tattooed, escort-looking chick to the same party was mature? You think that makes you strong? I laughed once, dry and shallow. Then I turned to walk out of the room, but her next words froze me in place. You don't even know what's really going on. That line, that stupid, predictable line. It was always the last card they played, wasn't it? The desperation card. As if some hidden backstory could erase the fact that I watched her lose herself in another man's arms. Not once, not by accident, but by routine. I turned slowly and said, "You're right. I don't know what's going on, but I'm done waiting for your version of the truth." And just like that, I left again. No yelling, no final blow-up. But I saw it, just before I shut the door. That flicker of panic in her eyes. Because this time, she wasn't sure if I'd come back. And she was finally realizing. I might not. 3 days went by. Not a word from me. I stayed off social media. I turned off read receipts. I let her text herself into a panic spiral. The messages came every few hours like clockwork. First angry, then apologetic, then the classic, "Can we please just talk?" I didn't respond to any of them. Not because I was trying to be cruel, but because I knew if I gave her even an inch, she'd drag me right back into her web. And the truth was, I didn't trust myself around her anymore. I didn't trust that I wouldn't cave the second she started crying. Then came the photo. It showed up on my phone at 2:11 a.m. No caption, no warning, just a grainy, zoomed-in shot of Parker, the same guy she'd been dancing with, sitting in a booth at some lounge. He was laughing with another woman. Blonde, curvy, not Miriam, and they were kissing. Hard. The photo came from an unknown number. I stared at it for a full minute, heart pounding, not sure if I was being baited or helped. I called Travis. "Did you send this?" I asked, voice flat but trembling underneath. "No, but I might know who did." Turns out, Brooke had gone back to the club the night after our exit. Not for me, but for her own reasons. She ran into Parker by accident. Alone. He was sloppy drunk, throwing compliments around like confetti. Apparently, he didn't even remember Miriam's name at first. Called her Marissa. Brooke played along. Let him flirt. Let him talk. And when he leaned in to kiss her, she pulled out her phone and snapped the shot. Then she sent it to me. A trophy. I didn't know whether to feel vindicated or nauseous. Because it confirmed everything I feared, and something worse. Miriam wasn't just cheating with a man who wanted her. She was clinging to someone who didn't even remember her name. She sold out our marriage for a guy who was already lining up the next distraction. And now, suddenly, I saw her differently. Not as a monster, but as something far more dangerous. Desperate. That night, I finally replied to her. One line. "He kissed someone else. Thought you should know." She read it within seconds. Then nothing for a full hour. Then, "Who told you that?" I didn't answer. Because she already knew who. And I was done giving her explanations. Let her chase the truth now. Let her feel the weight of it. The knock came at midnight. Not the frantic, bang on the door kind you see in movies. Just 3 soft knocks, like she wasn't even sure she should be there. I stood in the hallway for a second, heart pounding in my throat, watching her silhouette through the frosted glass. Part of me wanted to ignore it, let her stand there until she gave up and disappeared into the night. But curiosity is a disease, and I guess I was still sick with it. I opened the door, and there she was. Miriam, hoodie on, hair pulled back, no makeup, red eyes. Not the kind you get from allergies or a long day. The kind that only come after crying until your soul feels raw. And for the first time in a long time, she looked small. "Can I come in?" she whispered. I didn't say yes. I just stepped aside. She walked in slowly, like she expected to see her memories sitting on the couch waiting to accuse her. But the apartment was different now. Half empty, cold, and she could feel it. The air had changed. The silence wasn't soft anymore. It was sharp. She sat down at the edge of the couch like it didn't belong to her anymore. "I didn't sleep with him," she said suddenly. No preamble. No hello. I leaned against the wall, arms crossed. I didn't believe her. She could feel it. "Okay, fine," she said, biting her lip. I wanted to. I wanted to feel something. I wanted, I don't know, to remember what it felt like to be wanted without obligation. To be chosen. Not out of habit. Not out of routine. Just chosen. She looked up at me then, like that confession was supposed to change something. But it didn't. Because I realized, in that moment, she hadn't come here to apologize to me. She'd come to grieve herself. The version of herself that Parker rejected. "I saw the photo," she added, voice cracking. "Brooke sent it." Of course she did. He didn't even remember me. That's the part that hurts the most. Not what she did to me. Not what she broke. But that she wasn't enough for him. I felt something cold settle in my chest. She wasn't here to fix us. She was here because she had nowhere else to fall. And I refused to be her landing pad this time. I'm not a backup plan, Miriam, I said quietly. And I'm not your rehab center. You don't get to burn down our life and then cry to me because your affair didn't end in fireworks. She opened her mouth, closed it, and then finally, tears. Real ones. Silent ones. But I didn't move. I didn't reach for her. I just stood there while she cried into the space between us, realizing that this time, I wasn't going to catch her. And maybe for the first time in her life, she had to sit in the fire alone. She didn't stay. After 20 minutes of silence, a few tearful attempts to restart conversations I refused to engage in, and one failed apology that sounded more like a pity party than remorse, she stood up, wiped her face, and said, "I guess I should go." I didn't stop her. I just nodded once slow. She hesitated at the door, like she was waiting for a miracle, some version of me that still loved her enough to forget everything. But that man was gone, buried under every laugh she gave to another man. Every lie she told with those same eyes now dripping with regret. After she left, I sat there for a while. The apartment felt heavier than before, like her sadness had clung to the air itself. I poured myself a glass of water, then walked into the bedroom. That's when I noticed it, her bag. She'd left it behind. On purpose? By accident? I didn't care. I just wanted it gone. I grabbed it and froze. It was heavier than a purse should be. I unzipped it to make sure she hadn't left something important. Maybe her charger, her keys. But sitting right on top, in plain sight, was a folded piece of paper. No envelope. Just folded, creased, and stained slightly at the edge with what looked like tears. It was addressed to someone named Clara. The handwriting was hers. I shouldn't have opened it, but I did, and what I read nearly knocked the breath out of my chest. "Clara, I don't know how to live with what I've done. I never meant to hurt him, not really. I kept thinking I could have both things, the safety of him and the thrill of the other. I know how selfish that sounds. You warned me. You said I'd burn it all down, and I did, and I regret it every single day. But the worst part isn't even losing him. The worst part is knowing I've become the thing I swore I'd never be, my mother." I sat down on the edge of the bed, the letter trembling in my hands. Clara was her sister, estranged. They hadn't spoken in years. Miriam always said Clara cut the family off after their mom cheated on their dad and destroyed their home. Miriam hated what her mom did. She swore she'd never be like her. That was her biggest wound. And now here she was, becoming the very ghost she'd sworn to outrun. It hit me all at once. This wasn't just betrayal. This was generational. A pattern spiraling through bloodlines, through daughters repeating the sins they never forgave their mothers for. She didn't just ruin us. She destroyed herself in the process. I folded the letter back up and stared at it for a long time. I didn't know if I felt pity, satisfaction, or something darker. I just knew one thing. Whatever came next, it wouldn't include her. 2 weeks passed. No texts, no calls, nothing. For the first time in years, the silence between us wasn't a punishment. It was peace. I started sleeping again. I deleted our shared calendar, removed her emergency contact info. I even took down the framed photo from our trip to Santa Fe, the one she loved, the one I used to stare at, wondering when that version of her disappeared. But here's what surprised me most. I didn't feel broken. Not anymore. I felt clear, like the fog had finally lifted and I could see everything. My life, my choices, my worth, without her shadow cast over it. And then, one afternoon, she showed up again. I heard the knock while watering my one surviving houseplant. I opened the door expecting another delivery, maybe something from work. But there she was, Miriam, holding the letter I'd put back in her bag. Her eyes were calmer now. No tears, just the kind of stillness that comes after a storm finally stops wrecking everything. "I'm not here to beg," she said. "I just wanted to say thank you. For not screaming. For not humiliating me. For letting me sit with what I did." I didn't know what to say. Part of me expected this to be another performance. Another emotional trap. But she didn't step inside. She didn't ask for anything. She just handed me a small box. I cleaned out the apartment. "These are yours. The things you said you lost. I found them. Your dad's cufflinks. That old comic book you thought I sold. I didn't. I just forgot where I put it. Like I forgot a lot of things." She smiled then. Soft. Sad. But real. "I know you're done. And you should be. I just wanted you to know I see it now. I see you now. And I'm sorry it took losing you to remember who you were." And with that, she left. No begging. No drama. Just closure. That night, I opened the box and held the old cufflinks in my hand. They were my dad's, a symbol of everything he stood for. Honor, stability, quiet strength. I never thought I had any of that in me, but maybe I did. In the weeks that followed, something strange happened. I started living again. I rebuilt my routines. I reconnected with friends I'd drifted from. I finally went on that hiking trip I'd canceled twice for her. And at a bookstore downtown, I met someone. Her name was Kayla. She wore oversized glasses, smelled like old paperbacks and jasmine, and talked like she actually listened. No games, no power plays, just curiosity, laughter, and an ease I hadn't felt in years. It didn't start with fireworks. It started with coffee, then walks, then hours talking about everything and nothing. And for once, I didn't feel like I was competing with someone else's fantasy. I was just seen, not as a placeholder, not as a backup plan, but as me, fully, finally. And that, after everything, was the best revenge of all. Not the silence, not the walking away, but building a life that didn't need her anymore.